Hello.
Howdy, Boots.
Yes. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing good. Just sitting here watching a cloud rolling in here, thundering and lightning a little, hoping that we don't get no strikes.
Yeah, that'd be.
Still pretty green. I think it'd be hard to burn, but we'd probably have some that'd burn.
Boy, we got all kinds of smoke over here.
How?
We got all kinds of smoke over here. We got a great big fire about oh 10, 12 miles to the west of us.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, it's started over in California a couple weeks ago and it's been burning for a while.
I've been seeing some talk about some of them California fires and said the smoke was settling in New York City.
Yeah, I that's what they say. They're really concerned about New York City getting this smoke, but we seem to put up with it all right here. It's
Yeah, right where it's at. I've been in this country when there's big fires and they'd say smoke was coming out of Mexico, but it never has alarmed anybody to my knowledge.
yeah, it's it's tough. You get last summer was pretty thick with the smoke too. You it kind of wears on you after a while, but it ain't. I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think yesterday they did a pretty good number on that fire. It seems like they got it kind of somewhat starting to control it, so that's good.
oh yeah,
They uh
hell,
they brought a couple tankers in and able to uh, make some
yeah,
progress, anyways.
yeah, that'll be good. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
them
that's
things are terrible out there in that country that burn. I know the size of these ranches, and they'll say this far's 90,000 acres or something. I know that how that about what size that'd be according to some of the places here on the ranch and stuff.
oh yeah, it's they cover the difference out here than back home. We had a fire over there by Walsh 2 or 3 years ago, and it burned I think 50,000 acres in about 12 hours. But
Mm,
they
boy,
but it was over in a day and a half. They had it, it was pretty well burnt out. But there's just so much more fuel out here. They just burn and burn and burn, and boy, it's tough.
yeah, I've been in where we ranching in Montana. Had some fires out there, and them things are just you just can't put them out in them forest
No, there's just
country and them rough canyons and stuff. It just got to burn out finally.
yeah, you kind of gotta keep it contained and then just let it burn itself out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it seems like maybe they're making a little bit of progress on it. I hope so. I'm about tired of this smoke.
Uh, are y'all? What do you? What kind of weather you got there?
Oh, it's right around 100. It cooled off a little bit this past week. We're high
Oh
90s.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's still pretty warm, dry.
that's about kind of where we've been, and in the high nineties,
Yeah.
at 100 or so. But we haven't had a lot of times we get that 105 and six pretty regular, but we haven't had any of that to my knowledge. I haven't noticed it. We've still been gathering bulls, and I don't pay much attention to what the temperature is. I just go ahead and going to have to go
Yeah.
and uh, go, and then I don't watch my phone like some of the boys on there. It's got them smartphones. They keep up with the weather or where a cloud is. You can tell whether it's on which side of the ridge in a pasture.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, I I don't pay much attention to the weather till winter hits because I mean there's not much you can do about it anyways,
Nah,
but once
that
those that that snow blows in, I kind of want to have a little preparation for that. The summer weather, oh, there ain't much you can do about it, anyways.
They talking about the weather's cost the fellow here. The rumors is that it cost him. It's been 25 years ago. There's a big rancher in this country, and had several thousand cows, but he was running for governor,
Mm-hmm.
and against Ann Richards, who's a woman that was, and she won it. But they say on the strength, this old boy was just a ranch man, and he said this. He didn't mean nothing by it, but it was in the papers the next day, and he was on the bottom of the polls after that. But that's just kind of cowboy lingo. But they was in a branding pen, and a heavy fog rolled in, and they had to quit branding. They couldn't see and couldn't have them till it cleared out. And they said they'd have reporters right with him all the time,
Mm-hmm.
uh, while because he was rated right up at the top in the state to be governor. And he said, well, a fog is just like when it rolls in like that's just like being raped. There ain't nothing you can do about it but just relax and enjoy it and let it blow over. And they put that in the papers, and I mean, it was tough for him. I don't know I just heard stuff like that's what that really hurt him. I didn't. That's 25 or 30 years ago, but you can see how a rancher out there would say something like that in the branding pen, and not he didn't mean anything by it, but but how people would take it if they put it in the papers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just relax and enjoy it. Well,
Yeah,
the
that.
women would give him trouble, I'd think, but I don't, I can't speak with any authority on that. That was just kind of what we heard up here in this country. And
Yeah, it's amazing how the media will run with something and really blow it out of proportion. But it is. I guess it's been that way since forever. I think.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I come across an article the other day about an old fella at the JA's named Tom Blassingame. I assume you worked with him. It seemed like you guys had
Oh,
some
yeah,
some
yeah.
overlap.
He was, I worked with him, and then my dad worked for him 25 years ahead of me when Tom was running the wagon there at the Matadors. So we, uh, we go way back to the early 20s with Tom, and I still visit. He had one son, and he's up my age, and I talked to him. He's retired and stove up and got a little place in Hereford, Texas, and I talk to him on the phone once in a while now.
Oh, Hereford,
But
Texas. That's about the cattle feeding capital of the world.
yeah, they've got some big feed yards there and big packing houses.
Yep.
They kill cattle all over several states. I was surprised when I was talking a few years ago to that boy running Babbitt's there north of Flagstaff.
Mm-hmm.
He told me they shipped their canner cows to Cavendish there at Hereford.
Yeah,
And
that's where we. I tell you the some of the only ranching I ever did in. I guess it was more day work than anything in Texas. We had I was working for cactus feeders, and we had a bunch of old mama. Well, like they're like 4-year-old cows that we bred, and then we leased out to a fella there at Nazareth, and he turned them in on a little old trap when he received them, and there was nothing but about 6-8 foot tall kochia weed in that trap. And
yeah,
next thing you know, those old cows got weed poisoning and nitrate poisoning, and I had to haul was a big triple axle trailer with a 3/4 ton gas pickup. I had 35 head of those old sick mama cows. I had to haul them into Cavernous. I didn't know I was ever going to get that truck going, but once it started rolling, I pulled it about
Yeah,
55 mile an hour, and then of
yeah,
course it was a hell of a time getting it stopped once trying to get it slowed down. But we made it. But that was a ugly deal. That old boy didn't
yeah.
know much. He was a stalker kind of guy, and he didn't know much about that weed poisoning, I guess, and or anything. I think we
Yeah.
lost. Oh, we sold. We brought 35 head of them into Cavernous before they died, and I think we lost another 15 or 18 before that. I mean, it was an ugly deal.
Yeah, them deals are pretty tough. We ship all of our chipper cows and old bulls to Cavernous from here.
Yeah, we had a
But
railer truck that would come around every week. They would go down to Waco. I think it was H&B packing or something like that.
yeah,
But then our Brent Cavernous, he went to work for Cactus. After that, we started selling our railers and our coal cows over to Cavernous. They quite the facility they got there.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, how's the bull gathering going, Boots?
Well, going good. We're down to on an outfit this size of this. We're down to about 8 or 9, what we like, and you may find one or two of them dead. Or something that's been lightning hit them or something we don't know, but we have seen some that we're still looking for, and have seen their tracks at water and stuff. But we'll hunt them tomorrow, some more of them. But we're down to I haven't figured it up, but we're within 7 or 8 of having them all here on this ranch, and I think the Dixon Creek Ranch at Panhandle, I believe they've got most of theirs gathered. So we're ahead of the game.
Just on the downhill slide now, huh?
Yeah, it's just spend a lot of time now just riding, hunting one. You just got to ride, and you may ride all morning and come in at dinner and didn't find one, and then you may in the morning trot in there and find him first rattle out of the box. But that's where we're at on it. But we about got them, and we'll be kind of let the young boys will ride their young horses for about 30 days here, and then we'll go to work in September and work all fall then.
Yeah. Now, do they
But
use dogs on when you're gathering bulls? You take dogs with you or no?
no, we don't use any in this country. Now people do at different places. We've even got a boy that works for us. Day works. It's a dog man, and he goes when he's off or not working here. He goes to little outfits around with his dogs and helps them gather stuff. But we don't never. We've first place are these big pastures. Usually the dogs get hot and give out before you find the bull, and
Yeah.
and uh, and it's just not a good. It's never have done it here. And at Wagner's, I worked there 25 years, and they're just 15 miles below us here to their first fence. And we had a fella come there 40 years ago with some dogs, going to help us gather some stuff out of a big old brushy pasture, but the dogs just give out
Yeah.
down in there and got so hot they couldn't. If I guess if you could trailer them over there and find a bunch. Why, the Pitchforks is our neighbors, and they don't have them now. But at one time, they had some dogs that they could, like the crew would work this country and then leave,
Hmm.
and then one man would stay there with the dogs, and he could hold up little bunches and get the yearlings out of them,
Yeah.
with the dogs. But he worked by himself and didn't have a crew, but just him and the dogs. but they don't have any now. I don't know. It's just not a thing in this country.
Yeah, that was kind of the way it was for us back home. We had a few different guys that would try them, but man, I saw more wrecks than I ever saw good out of dogs when we. And maybe it's just the weren't good dog or they didn't have good handlers. I don't know, but seems like everybody out here's got a dog, and it seems like they can sure enough work. And those dogs
Yeah,
are really handy when they're working good.
yeah. I've seen deals and videos and pictures and talked to guys, and then I've heard of dogs that was really handy on the where you work in the chute, running up and down that chute, keep
Mm-hmm.
yearlings moving through it and stuff. But I've never had any experience with them like that. But I'm sure they're good in places, you know.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing. If you tell a man to call his dogs off, a lot of times you might as well be saying something bad about his mama because they get
Yeah,
mad.
yeah, I know it. They're pretty touchy about them, and they uh, our boss here, the manager, he's got a collie dog that border collie that goes some, and he's worked a lot with him, and he's had some trainers give him tips, and they he can make him do some things and everything, but most generally we just wind up, and it's probably us, not him, but we just wind up thinking that he's in the way, you
Yeah,
know. So,
yeah, that's kind
uh,
of kind of how I grew up. I mean, it's really neat to watch a good dog work, but more often than not, when I've been around them, they're just in the way, pushing cattle the wrong way, or pushing them back on top of you, or holding them up when you
yeah,
don't want them to held up. And
right. But I guess in places where they use them, and the guys that know how to handle them, I've seen videos of some boys with dogs. These were in Canada
mm,
on that gang ranch up there. It's one of the biggest ranches in Western America,
mm-hmm.
and that that old boy, he could holler at them things, come here or go, and they'd go different directions and hold a herd up and then move them across the country with them. I seen a pretty good video of that, of them doing that, and I was impressed with them. But you know, I don't imagine just the average old boy could take them dogs and do that. Have to be the trainer or somebody that raised them or trained them.
Yeah, yeah. I always thought maybe I'd have a good cow dog, but I just never. I've had plenty of cow dogs over the years, but they were far from working dogs. They just in house pets.
They use a lot of them own different kind of dogs down in like Louisiana and Alabama and that swamp country.
Mm-hmm.
They're not what we call cow dogs out here, but they they everybody that I've ever talked to down in that country use dogs getting them things in and out of that country. But they're not these like cow dogs like we've got out in here.
Yeah, they're all kind of oh Catahoula.
Hounds.
Yeah, Catahoula or hounds or something along
Yeah,
those lines, and
but
not afraid to go latch on to a nose.
but I I I wouldn't want to get into it with any dog man and insult them or make them mad. And then if you said like me saying that we thought this in the way or just didn't, well, they could just tell you didn't know how to handle them and didn't know what you was doing, and they's probably right.
Yep.
And but I've never been in a crew working where we used them and or anything felt like that was doing us good. But
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on the country. Of course, a lot of times out here in the you know in this big open country out west, a lot of times the guy's by himself. So those dogs sure play. They sure, if they're working right, they can do a lot of stuff that one man can't do on his own.
yeah, that's what I'd think would be in this country too. The best deals I've heard of. It's one man with the dogs, and everybody else is gone, and he can use them and do some things that he can't do with 5 or 6 men helping the dogs. Well,
Yeah.
it don't work out very good. But
I was gonna ask you. So your dad cowboyed his whole life. Is that correct?
huh?
Your dad cowboyed his whole life too, right?
Well, I didn't ever hear you. I haven't got my hearing aid in, and
Oh.
I can't.
Your dad was cowboy his whole life
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He worked for the big outfits and was working for the Rose when I was born. He worked for the Matadors at the wagon. Stayed at a wagon a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
then we grew up on a ranch up in the Panhandle of Texas where he was kind of the working foreman there, and we run just a little deal. We run 1,000 cows and have a stud and a band of mares, just a regular little working ranch.
Yeah.
We used to bring our cows in there to headquarters where they had scales and pens, and they'd strip them calves off and separate steers and heifers and weigh them, settle up with the buyers, and then they'd turn them back with the cows and then drive them to the railroad over there because
Yeah.
we couldn't drive them without the cows. And then we'd uh, strip them and load the calves and then drive the cows back.
Yeah.
But now then they'd have that is in the uh, 30s, 40s, and early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
That same great ranch. I haven't been out there in years and years, but they'd have a chute and a road out there now where they could load them,
Mm-hmm.
there without driving them over. In the first place, trains don't haul them now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
and
hardly ever
so,
see any cattle cars on a train anymore.
no, they don't. They quit. I was loading cattle on the last ones that showed them in this country in 72 when they quit hauling cattle. The railroad did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That was kind of an end of an era.
yeah, we shipped a lot of cattle this country here, just like where I'm here at the headquarters within 50 miles of here. I can name 5 or 6 sets of big railroad pens where you could drive cattle in there and have a depot agent. He'd order the cars for you and stuff, and you could load. Sometimes have 2 outfits loading there. You'd have a bunch held up out there while they loaded or something. But they railroad just quit hauling cattle in 72, and that ended the trucks. I think just got so competitive for them that it was hard for them to compete with it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them old railroad stock pens are still around in this country that ranches are using, have converted them, and they got a load and shoot for truck there. And not a lot, but I know of 2 or 3 sets of them that way where there's not even a railroad there now. They've took track up, but you can tell they're them old railroad shipping pens.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's pretty pretty wild how quick stuff has changed. In 100 years.
Yeah, when I was working for the Cattle Raisers Association, in this country, and that is in the 60s. I'd go all over this area to 8 or 10 different places that I could name where they had a depot agent, and I'd leave them a self-addressed penny postcard. Now, there's no such thing now as a penny postcard, but
No.
I just self-addressed. I'd address them to myself and just leave the cards with the depot agent.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to the post office, I'd may open it in the morning, open my box, and the card be laying there to say 8 cars, Benjamin, Texas, May the 1st. It wouldn't say who they was, where it divulged anybody's business or information, but he just told me that somebody ordered 8 cars for May the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And I could show up there and see them cattle, see.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting out. But now there's not any depot agents at them places and no railroad. Most of them places that I'm talking about, they've took the tracks up. So there's not any trains there, so you can't uh, they do it now. But I used to really like the railroad deal on the cattle because you could see all of them easy there in them pens, good pens, and have a horse with you if you could get in there and work. It was easy to see cattle. Have a place to cut one back if you wanted to look at him or something.
Mm-hmm.
But where you is out on the ranch where they're loading in trucks now, they they usually a lot of the guys don't have a good pen and it's not a good facility and it's hard deal to look out. And so it just don't work as good.
Yeah, and a lot of times the brand inspectors, a lot of times they're on foot nowadays, and it's just so much easier to see cattle a horseback. They act better when with a horse than they do somebody on foot, and I think that's one thing that won't ever change about the cattle business. Is just they're so much easier to work a horseback.
Oh yeah, they've never come up with a better way. Now I've shipped a lot of cattle in Montana where them inspectors would get in there afoot where you're loading and try to thin them down and stand there and makes it hard to load and hard to put them by him and hard to keep them thin to where he can look at them. But
Mm-hmm.
they'd work, nearly all of them would work afoot in those corrals where I was loading out there
Yeah,
in Montana.
it's amazing how you can just kind of angle your horse just a touch, and it'll
Oh yeah,
you can choke them
and that
cows down to single file almost, and
and another thing is a lot of cattle are dependent on your cattle, but you can turn him backwards to where his rears to their face the way they're coming,
mm-hmm.
and they'll just keep coming by you. And if you can turn him around facing them in the exact same position, they won't come by him facing them like that. But
Yep.
you turn his rear to them, and they'll just shift by there. And you don't think cattle are that smart, but they know he's backwards and not a threat to them there,
Mm-hmm.
see?
Yeah.
But we load lots of cattle here, and got coming out of the alley into a crowding pen, and a couple of us will be in a crowding pen thinning them as they go on the trucks. And I've noticed a lot of times where we're having trouble making them take it if you turn your horse around, or just like you said, just change a little bit of position there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll just sift by there then. And
Yep. Yeah. I've tried to explain to a couple people, as we're like we'll be counting cattle in the alley or something. Person up in front will just be standing there. I said, well, just keep moving towards them, stay on that fence. If you're facing them and just keep walking right towards them, they'll a lot of times they'll start going by, and once one or two of them start going, then they'll go, and then you can just angle your horse as you need to choke them down
Yeah,
a little bit.
kind of skip them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and keep them going. They're just, I tell a lot of young boys here, a lot of times one step
Mm-hmm.
over makes a difference in the deal working or not.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen here just a day or two ago. We was trying to hold two bulls up and was driving them, and one of them was pretty wild and wanting to fight. And the boy just moved around him. I could see it happening. I thought when he stepped over, I thought you're just one step too far forward, and it caused that bad bull to come out. And
Mm-hmm.
we had to run him about 200 yards. Finally got him stopped, and then brought the other one back up there to him and got him all right. But and I never did mention it to that boy, but I could tell. I was just sitting there thinking he's just a foot too far up there,
Yep.
and that what caused that. If he'd have been back just a little, that thing would have went forward instead of coming back. But you got to know, I guess, and it takes a little time to learn that, and you got to see a lot of them run off.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but
I had a whole bunch of we were doing a whole bunch of checkways on some dairy heifers one time, and I had an older fella working for me. He was a retired Navy guy or Army, I think. I can't remember, military, and he was not much of a hand with a horse at all or cattle. And you know how when you're chasing them up to the scales, you kind of want them at a pretty good trot, and so you can just slam that gate on them and don't ever give them a chance to look back, or they're going to turn back.
that's right.
And we had it was a little angle. You coming down this alley, and then it angled off into the chute or to the scale. He was on the outside, and I was trying to grab the gate, and I was finally got to barking at him like I was a drill instructor. Now, keep on him, keep on him. And I don't know how many times he spilled cattle behind him, but he was really into the low stress cattle handling, which I agree with completely. But I say low stress, that doesn't mean no stress. There's always some sort of
Hey, girls. Yeah. Yeah. I've got some company that comes, so I'm going to have to hang up some.
Oh,
But
okay.
we'll catch you next week.
All right,
Got
sounds
a
good.
bunch of folks that come by traveling.
All right, well you better go say hi.
Better visit with them. Yeah.
All right, well
Thank you for calling, though.
you bet. It was good visiting with you.